My ME continued for 15 years, but in 2011 it began to get worse and worse. So badly that I ended up lying in the darkened room all day. I could only walk to the toilet next door. That was as far as I could walk. I was in bed all the time. My husband had to feed me. I was having problems chewing and swallowing, and really just was lying in bed all the time. Eventually they managed to get me into a special unit at Leeds General Infirmary, and they began to help me, and one of the things they did is they produced a management plan and for my day, and initially it was just something like opening the curtain for 5 minutes in the afternoon and then closing it, and then that gradually increased to dinner time, taking 2 spoonfuls, holding the spoon myself, which at the time was very, very frightening, but I did it and I managed to do it. And then gradually that increased to having my first meal out of my room, which would be breakfast, and I was able to do that. And then, so each week the team would, with me, produce a plan of what I would do and the very careful upgrading that I was doing, making sure that it was carefully paced, that there were different types of activity. Relaxation was very important, once or twice a day, and the staff said it would top up energy, and I did find that very helpful in just pausing, and if I was feeling distressed in any way, it would definitely help calm down. By the time I was ready to leave the hospital, I was there for 3 months. I was able to make my own self-management plan, and was able to decide for myself where I would upgrade and how to do that. One of the occupational therapists said something I found very helpful, which was, as long as you get quality rest and you don't upgrade too much, the body adapts. And for me, this seemed to be working. So I gradually increased that to the extent where at that time I was being supported by the hospital by phone, but I was able to start walking in the garden, then walking outside, and then gradually just building up my activity week by week, very slowly, and again keeping that balance of morning, afternoon and evening. Before, when I first had ME, I would do nothing in the morning and then do something in the afternoon. So my mornings were never free, whereas now I was able to do something at each time of the afternoon, and just gradually increasing that. And then I had support from the local CFSME NHS group, and so I was able to then begin to improve, which I was doing anyway, but they helped me upgrade in terms of walking, starting to fell walk, but also in terms of other activities, thinking about work, doing some private tuition, and then also, importantly, helping with all the emotional experiences around, because I was still quite anxious, having been through such a bad experience, and so all the helping to cope with the emotions, they continued that work with me. When I first got ME in 1998, there was nothing. There was no support, there was very little advice, and there was very little information. And there were no health professionals to talk to about how I was feeling, no help for the emotional anguish of being ill and that experience. So actually having a team that you can talk to, who understand what ME is like, when a lot of people don't, is so helpful. The help with the psychological effects of the condition was helpful. Initially, it's easy to sort of think, well, they're talking about psychology, they're saying the ME isn't real and it's all in my mind. But that hasn't been my experience. My experience has been that when you have a condition like ME, CFSME, a life-changing condition that affects how you feel, it's disorientating, it's painful emotionally, it can create distress and anxiety. And all those emotions can be very, very draining. And help with managing those emotions so they don't add to the exhaustion that you're already feeling is really helpful. I found it just, if I was getting anxious or feeling tired, I would just be able to pause and just do some relaxation for 5-10 minutes, sometimes a bit longer. This would calm my body down, and so it would mean that any negative emotions, particularly distress or anxiety, which are very draining to the body. That would help me calm down. It would help my body calm down so that it could have more energy, and also it just helped me manage the day, and and the experience of improving, which trying new things was scary sometimes, and so the relaxation helped me to just cope with everything. In addition, the cognitive behavioural therapy techniques that I was taught were very helpful as well. It was particularly helpful understanding how anxiety about anxiety could increase the symptoms, and how to manage that, to look for the signs and the kind of circular process of how the anxiety and the distress could get worse and worse and work off each other. Well, it would seem that I don't have any symptoms anymore, but nevertheless I am careful and I do monitor my activity. I make sure I have plenty of rest time and that I'm not doing too much, and whilst I'm quite relaxed about it, I am just aware if I'm tired. I'm just sort of thinking, right, do I need to just have a rest here, take a pause out and say no, or can I continue? So I try and be careful about my activity, but in some senses I don't really feel a great need for that. I just feel it's a wisdom to do that. Yes, in fact probably even better actually. I'm working, I'm doing all the things I love, I'm performing and singing. I have my own theatre and education business, so I perform in primary and secondary schools. I also do private coaching in English and drama. I'm in a choir, I do gardening, I've been doing lots of fell walking, and generally just really enjoying life, and having to learn again how not to be too busy, but the fact is that I'm well enough to be in that situation.